morning everyone, it's Carol here at Oak House Journals. Big warm welcome from me as always. So I'm going to be doing the 50 stack challenge today, and I'm going to be attempting to do the prompt for guest check number 39. Our prompt for guest check number 39 is a punch. I decided to have a go at some punch art, and I remember way back in the day when I used to go to Stampin' Up classes, we made the cutest bunny that sat in a little origami envelope. So I was looking around for my template for that, and I came across this. And as you can see, this is punch art again, and this is by a demonstrator called Ellen Kemper. And I obviously wanted to have a go at doing this. I've never made it, so I came across it and I thought, oh, that would be good. And I was checking out the list of punches for the various parts of Tigger, and my head was in the frame of mind that I would make this until I spotted this. Now, I'd also put this to one side. Now, this is another demonstration of punch art by another Stampin' Up demonstrator, this time Katie Legge, and I will put the names in the description box below the video. I don't know whether either of these two ladies are still Stampin' Up demonstrators or whether they still have websites or YouTube channels. The information will be below if you want to check that out. Katie Legge doesn't actually give a tutorial or even list what punches she's used to create Yoda's head, but I think I can work it out, and I've lifted out this Stampin' Up punch, which as you can see is a 1 3/4 inch oval. And I've also lifted out this, which is an EK Success 1/2 inch circle punch. So I'm going to be using those to have a go at creating Yoda's head. Now, obviously, Yoda's head is going to be way too big unless I put it this way on my guest check, but I'm going to scale it down, hopefully, so that I can get it to fit on my guest check. And the one thing that really focused my mind was knowing that in amongst my stash, I had a single piece and a scrap of this cardstock, which has been left over from a pack of Stampin' Up cardstock, and I think this was called olive green, I don't know. And again, I don't know whether Stampin' Up still produce this colour, but it was a gorgeous colour. I had a pack of it, I loved it, so I thought that that would be the perfect colour choice for trying to create Yoda here. So I'm going to give it a go. Whether I can pull it off or not, I don't know, but I'm certainly going to give it a try. The first thing I'm going to start off doing is to create my background, because that's going to need to dry. So whilst that's drying, I can then get on and try and create Yoda's head. So I'm just going to lift out some mixed media paper. I've lifted out some Canson mixed media cartridge paper. As you can see, it's 200 GSM, 120 pound in weight, A4 size, and it's brilliant white silky surface. Now, I've picked a piece that I just had left over in my pad here that is bigger than my guest check. I'm going to create my background on this and trim it to size. Okay, so I've got myself a piece of kitchen roll. This is my mixed media paper. I've got a little pot of water off to one side. I've got some distress ink. This is hickory smoke. I've got a bottle of water, and I've also got the salt cellar out of the kitchen. So I'm going to be using some salt. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spritz this paper and get it and get a nice puddle of water going on here. So let me just do that. There we go. So there's lots and lots of water all over here. I'm going to take my pad and do the usual thing, just smush it onto my glass mat there. I'm going to pick up some water. In fact, I should just spritz that, shouldn't I, really? So let's do that. And then I'm just going to drop it onto my background here. I only want it to be very light. And just check that I've got lots of water on here, like this. Just let it flow on my page. And then I'm going to go in with some salt. And I'm just going to set this aside to dry now. And hopefully the salt will soak up some of the water, excess water puddles on there, and also leave me a nice decoration. So I think I'm just going to put more in this area down here. Just want it a bit more there, I think. And as I say, I'm just going to leave this now to dry. So whilst that's off to one side drying, I cut out the full-size image of Yoda's head. And the reason I did that is because what I wanted to do was check the proportions of this head on the guest check. And as you can see, the only way I can get it on is to have it that way round, which isn't the way that I want it. I want it on here, something like that. So what I've done is I've scaled this down considerably, and I've got this size head, which is more in keeping with what I have in mind for the guest check. But I'm still going to keep this because I can work out from here the various layers that I need to punch for the eyes and the nose and the mouth. And I've also punched out my 1 3/4 inch oval, and working with this and this image at the right scale, I can work out that I'm getting the right shape up here for the nose, and similarly if I use the other end down here for the mouth. And with my little 1/2 inch circle punch, I've punched out some little circles. Now the eyes, if I hold this one up, is multi-layered. So I've worked out that the white on this one, which is the right size, is definitely this 1/2 inch circle. So I'm going to be using that. To get the grey and also the black, I need to use this little stencil here and that circle there, and also the 4mm hole that I can punch out using my crocodile. So I know that I can get certainly the main part of the eyes using punches. And then for these eyelids and the eyebrows, then I know as well that if I punch another one of these in the green, then I can actually trim them down to size, the same as I'm doing for the nose and the mouth. And similarly, if I use another one of these punched in green, I can get this edge here that's all the way around the inside, or sorry, the outside of the ears. So whilst the whole thing isn't or won't be done using punches, the vast majority of it will be. Now, Katie Legge on her blog post mentioned that she'd used a Stampin'Up embossing folder, I think it was called Northern Flurry, to create the ridges on Yoda's head up here. Now I haven't got that embossing folder, but what I do have is this one, which is, I think it's a Tim Holtz, although nothing is written on it anywhere that I can see, which gives me an indication of what it is. Nope, there isn't any sort of reference on here. And I thought I might be able to use this to create these little ridges on the top of Yoda's head. So the first thing I've done is I've gone round the outside of this with a pencil on the scrap of green cardstock. So I just popped it on here and traced around with a pencil and cut it out, and I have this piece now. So as you can see, it's the same size as the Yoda head, that is perfect in proportion for my guest check. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this top portion through my Big Shot inside the embossing folder to see if I can get those ridges on here. So I'm going to go away and do that now. So this is what his head looks like now that I've done that. It's not perfect, but it's good enough, I think, for what I need. So now I'm just going to punch out a couple of ovals in the green paper. I want to try now to create the nose and the mouth. What I've done is I've traced out this image onto some tracing paper, and if I take the oval that I've just cut in half and put it behind, you can see that the lower portion of it, if I hold that up, I hope you can see, the lower portion of it is the perfect shape for the mouth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and trace that onto my piece of green card and cut it out. So I've just flipped my piece of paper over and I'm just going to go over the lines on the back. And flip it over, take my piece of the oval, pop it on the top like so, try to line it up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to very carefully try and trace over my lines again, like that, and it gives me an impression, I flip that over, of the mouth, and I'm just going to fussy cut this out now. I've cut out 3 portions. So the first, using one of the ovals, I cut out just the nose. The next time I cut out the nose and the upper lip, and the third time I cut out the whole piece. And that's what I've got here. And if I just layer them up, so this is the whole piece. That is the, where are we? Yes, that's the, turn it around that way. That's the top lip and the nose, and here I have just the nose. So if I layer all those up, they give me a really nice dimension and creates the mouth. So I'm going to set those to one side for the moment. So I'm just going to pop them on there, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work on the eyes. Now if I bring this one in, as I mentioned before, it's multi-layered. So I've got my whites of the eye here, and if I pop that down on the card you can see, so I've got 2 of those. What I now need to do is I need to punch out the brown and I need to punch out the black for the pupil. Okay, so I've lifted out a little bit of brown card and a little bit of black card out of my stash, and I've measured across the brown part here, and it is 1 centimetre across. So I have got this stencil here, and measuring this, it's also 1 centimetre across. So on the brown card, I'm just going to draw a couple of circles and fussy cut those out. And then for the pupil, that is near nigh 5 millimeters. So the only thing that I've got that is near to that is perhaps that circle there. So let me just measure that. And yeah, it's actually 5 millimeters. But what I was actually thinking is that's 4 millimeters, and I think I will be able to get a neater circle with that than actually trying to draw that circle on my black and fussy cut it. So I'm going to have a go with this and see what it looks like, whether it's going to be the right size or not. And if it looks too small, then I can always resort to actually drawing that circle and attempting to fussy cut it out. As you can see, I've cut out the brown circles, and I've cut out 3 5 millimeter circles using this template, because when I put the 4 millimeter ones in the center, I didn't think that they looked right. So what I decided to do was go with the bigger ones, and I think they do look a lot better, although they were very tricky to cut out. So I'm going to go with those for the eye configuration. Same as before with the mouth, I'm going to pop these off to one side, and now I'm going to concentrate on trying to do the eyebrow and the eyelids, and then I'll go in and try and do something for the ears. For these, I think I might have to again punch some more of the green card and go in and try and do some tracings to manipulate the shape to get the shape that I want. But again, if I put this behind my tracing, you can see that I can use the curve up here for the curve of my eyelids and my eyebrows. So I'm just going to trace those out and cut them out, and then I'll come back. Okay, so these are the eyebrows and eyelids all cut out now, and I did it exactly the same way as I did the mouth, and just traced round this, flipped it over, traced it onto the oval green card, and then cut it out. And as you can see, I've got, these are the lower eyelids, and then I've got the eyebrows and the upper eyelids together there, and then I've just done an additional eyebrow to go on the top to give me the dimension that I need. So those are ready to go with these pieces, and the final thing I have left to do is, if I bring in the big one, is to do this ridge here round the outside of the ear on both sides. And for those, I'm going to do it exactly the same way. I'm just going to trace that onto there, the ear onto there, and fussy cut it out. So I'll go away and do that now, and I will be back ready to glue it all together. So these are my ears, and I needed to cut them off from the main part of the base of the head to get these little lips or rims to align properly. And now I want to reattach them back onto the side of the head, and to do that I'm going to use some double-sided tape. Just give that a little burnish with my bone folder to make sure it's nice and snugly secured. And if I flip it over, that's my head back in place. So I'm going to use this one as my template and start trying to put all my pieces together. First thing I need to do is maybe construct my mouthpiece first. So let's do that. It's not exactly straight, but never mind. I could peel it off, but I think that's okay. So I'm kind of liking that on there like that. Let's go in with my eyes. So that one I think needs to go a little bit lower, I think, down to about there. This needs to come down a little bit more. And that needs to go behind. And I've just realised that I haven't done those little white dots, so let me just do those. So I've got a tiny little punch here. Okay, so that's that bit done. So there we go everybody, that's my Yoda head. If I hold it up to the camera you can see I had a little bit of difficulty trying to get this lower eyelid in place right, and realised that the centre of the eye was too high up, which caused an issue. So yeah, it's not too bad. I'm quite happy with how it's come out. It looks a little bit grungy round this lower eye now. And I think I'm going to go in now with some felt tip pens and see if I can add a little bit of shading. So I've dug out my Stampin' Up markers, and actually I've got one here that's called Old Olive, which I remember now is what this paper was called. So this is going to be a perfect match. So I'm just going to go in and just add a little bit of definition in one or two places. And I've just realised that I haven't done this bit here. What I have are my scraps here of Avril twine, and I'm sure, yeah, just looking at this bit on the top, that might work, or even this bit here might work. So I will add those bits in a second. So I'm just going to do the marking first and see how that goes. Pull a portion of this out. Oh, there's a big bit here. Okay, so let's have a look and see what we've got. And I'm just thinking a little bit of this, maybe something like that. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm just going to snip a portion of this off and get my glue. Just put a little dab in here. So this is how my Yoda head looks now. I've put a little bit of fluff in the ears, as you saw, and I've gone round with some felt tip markers, just trying to add a little bit of definition to him. So I'm reasonably pleased how he's come out. And here's my background now that it's all dry, and as you can see my salt is still on here. So what I'm going to do is just use a paper towel and just scrape it off a little. There we go. Just going to empty this into the bin now. And that's what my background looks like. Sorry, the light isn't good in here now, but I'm hoping that you can get some idea of what it looks like. And as usual, I'll put some photos at the end. I'm going to just measure this up on my guess check and cut it out. So that's my background glued to my guess check, and I'm thinking that I'll have Yoda something like that at an angle. If I put him that way, then his ears stick out. And I've started to make my journal for my finished guess checks. It means that I can't have anything sticking out too far off the sides of my guess check. So Yoda is going to have to go at a slight angle like that. You can also see that I've got a stamp set here. Now this is Alter New Shoot for the Moon, and I'm thinking that I might stamp a moon and have it half on, half off up here. What I thought I would do is, rather than stamp directly onto here, I'm going to stamp onto some spare cardstock that I've got and glue it on. But I need to do something to frame this piece. So I've got my Hickory Smoke Distress ink again, and a little blending tool, and I'm just going to go around the edge, darkening it up a little bit. And then I think I'll probably stitch on here with some black thread. As you can see, I've stamped the moon out, and the first layer I did with Hickory Smoke, and then the second layer I went in with black soot, and then I embossed over the top with some embossing powder. So now I thought I would just use my black soot and just shade up the edge of the moon a little bit. This is my background, and as you can see, I've just sewn around it on my sewing machine with a couple of rows of messy stitching. And where's Yoda? Here's Yoda, so I'm thinking Yoda can go somewhere like that. I was wondering whether or not to have that somewhere like that rather than have the whole thing. So I've just printed off the well-known saying that goes with Yoda, and I've been looking at a couple of different fonts here. I've got a lot of space here to use up, so I thought I would go with this one. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to edge my pieces with black soot. I'm going to go in with some glue on this. I decided this wasn't quite finished, so I'm going in now with some black splatters. So I've just mixed up some black watercolour paint here, done a little bit of masking on my guest check, and I'm just going to go in with random splatters like that. So I'm just going to dry this off now. So let me take these pieces off. And just a couple of pieces on here. I think I'm going to, rather than try and get that piece, I'm going to give it a blast with my heat gun to dry it off first. So that's what it looks like now. I've picked out some Faber-Castell artist pens. These are the Pitt big brush pens. I just thought to add a little bit of shading around one or two pieces just to highlight them. I think it just needs something to lift it, really. And my last job is to go in with some of this Radiant Rain. You've seen me use it before. It's by Luminate, and I'm going to just give everything a lovely little spritz. I just love the finish that this gives. Doesn't always come out, as you can see, nice and smooth, but I'm happy with what it's giving me there. So I'm just going to go off and dry this now. And there we go, everybody. That's my finished altered guest check for prompt number 39, which was punch. And whilst I didn't use a lot of punches, I certainly used the entire punched out pieces for the eyes on my little Yoda. And yeah, I'm quite pleased with how it came out. The biscotti, the gold on here came out a bit too heavy, especially down in this bottom corner here, a bit more than I wanted, but look how fabulous it looks on the moon there. I hope you'll pop by and join me for the next video, which is prompt number 40 in the 50 stack challenge. Until then, take care, everybody. Bye bye.